Thank you, Mike, for that excessively warm and wonderful introduction. And I'm happy to be here with Will Marshall. I served in the Clinton administration before the word progressive was a bad word, and at least some political debates, and saw what PBI did and some of the great work. And I think it's an interesting proposition, which is how do you get this clean energy stuff going, and how do you do it in a way that is business friendly? How is it relevant to the federal debate? And so I'd just like to give you some quick observations about that, and then I know Nick Darbeloff is here, who's been a great partner for us, Peter Rothstein, both from the New England Clean Energy Council, and I invite them to come up and add some thoughts as well. They've been really good partners for us in what we've been able to achieve in state government, and then happy to take questions and have some back and forth. It's a reasonably small audience, so we can get into some detail and get back and forth. So, I think that Governor Patrick took office with the idea that clean energy was a big economic opportunity, and really saw a few key factors out there: high volatile fossil fuel prices. We in Massachusetts are strapped to the side of the natural gas roller coaster in terms of our gas prices set the clearing price for electricity 80% of the time in our electric market. So when it goes up or doubles or it crashes back down, our electricity prices quickly follow that. And the sort of foreign policy issues around our dependence on foreign oil and the way it drives American foreign policy, the mandate of climate change and the need to get going on that. And I think as in contrast to the kind of first push for conservation 30 years ago, these factors seem much more permanent now, and you see the markets continuing to price in high fossil fuel prices, even in the context of a lot of economic uncertainty right now. So Governor Patrick saw that, and he saw also what we have in Massachusetts, which I think does distinguish us at a threshold level from most other states, that we've got UMass and MIT and other leading universities. We've got a large, vibrant venture capital sector, and we've got a huge amount of firm formation and new companies being formed in this area. So you look at sort of these mega trends and what we have in our state. The governor's question is, what can we do to really bet in this area, recognizing we'll have some detractors, and we do. How can we place some bets to go longer in this area? It really began with the idea of putting environment and energy agencies together with a common mission of cutting energy costs for the business community, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and really bringing new clean energy technologies into the market. And those were the three things that we really set our mind about doing. In terms of the energy regulatory context, we're also a bit different from the rest of the country, but not completely different. We're geographically literally at the end of the pipeline. The pipeline from the Gulf ends, its terminus is in Massachusetts. The pipeline from Canada, from Sable Island, ends in Drake. Literally the two East Coast pipelines end in our state. So we buy the highest price for natural gas around the country, around the continental U.S., and that's an accident of geography. We don't have coal. We import it for the few remaining coal plants in New England, again at a high price. So we have a lot of economic reasons to want to do that, and also really a bipartisan consensus over the last 20 years that has seen a lot of fuel switching from coal to natural gas. Natural gas became the fuel of choice probably in New England maybe 20 odd years ago, and so we run our economy today, even when we took office, was just a little bit above 1990 levels in terms of greenhouse gas emissions at a time when the economy had boomed since 1990, and we came in with one of the most energy efficient economies in the country, about double the national average in terms of the amount of GDP produced per unit of energy. So, we had a lot of those things already as a basis in our favor, and really what we set about doing was kind of the next generation of energy restructuring. Really the 1997 bill that had deregulated the power generating sector had begun small amount of funds for renewables, a set amount of money for energy efficiency. We really set about saying, how do you make that much more mainstream? It was there, but how do you move it into the mainstream? And so our energy reforms did things like create a market for energy efficiency to compete against power generation on a cost basis. Relatively simple concept, harder to do in practice, and we've worked with our friends in the utility business as they go from 30 or 40 miles an hour, which is, by the way, almost the fastest in the country, to, trying to get up over 100 miles an hour doing this energy efficiency stuff. It's hard work. Doing that, things like rate decoupling, trying to get rid of the kind of odd incentive, as if Comcast were attaching the wire to your house and then billing you per minute for how much CNN you watched. I mean, that's what the world had been, and obviously you get a lot of incentives to watch a lot of CNN if that was what the marketplace was. In our place, our utilities don't own the power generation, and so why would it be that their economics would be that they would want to maximize their power sales to you? It doesn't make any sense in a world where you're trying to reduce, not maximize greenhouse gas emissions. And so, that's something that our DPU is able to do in relatively short order. Additional incentives for renewables. I mean, Massachusetts, when we took office, 3 megawatts of solar installed. This is from a state that's been talking about renewable energy for a long time, and really very little actually getting built. And so Phil Giudice, we recruited from making a lot of money in the private sector as a clean energy entrepreneur with promises of 95% pay cut and daily headaches. Remarkably, he's still here, and we appreciate him every day for that. But we did a lot of work in creating a solar rebate, and now, as you might have read in the Boston Herald today, essentially a solar-only mandate on the utilities, modeled in some ways after what our friends in New Jersey had done. And short story is by the end of 4 years we'll have 20 times more solar, so over 60 megawatts than when we took office. Same in wind, we're going to have 10 times more wind in our state than when we took office. And a lot of other small things, advanced building codes, long-term contracts for in-state renewable resources, a number of other things in the Green Communities Act that really laid that basis. We also reorganized state government with the Clean Energy Center, which has been a terrific entity that's still up in the process of blossoming, that I'm fortunately the chairman of, that really pulls together our Renewable Energy Trust plus some other resources and has some other functions, and is modeled, and this good work is done in places like California and New York to set up entities like that, and we set up with a lot of ambition to try to have a broad mandate in this area, and that's been a good partner for us. And a variety of other things. The greenhouse gas mandate, I would say we haven't really done much with our regulatory authority there. It's something that we're still working our way along to. We've actually been, and politically I think this may be useful for the federal lesson, is we've tried to do real things on renewables and efficiency and a lot of other things as building blocks, each on their own merits, rolling up into a larger strategy. And I think to the degree one can draw conclusions from some of the other states who've taken a more top-down regulatory approach is that as you go into this kind of economic environment, it becomes very hard to be saying, we're going to just simply be going after this stuff frontally in a regulatory way. And I think we've been able to, and I really think generally we've had good consensus around this, try to look at where are the areas that we can create jobs, where can we create some specialized incentives, and then try to have each of our own policies kind of stand up on their own with multiple bottom lines of economic, environmental types of merit to them. And we've rolled up all of our policies recently in the greenhouse gas area, showed that we'd be getting to about 18.5% below 1990 levels by 2020, which is remarkable given that we hadn't actually yet done any economy-wide regulation of greenhouse gas emissions, even though we have that authority under state law, and something we're working now towards sort of fine-tuning. Where does it make sense to do that?